What if we lived in an alternate universe, and instead of 21 Pilots, the band was named Chill Coat? A lot like Bicycle Thief, Chill Coat was one of the original names that the band wanted to call themselves, but didn't work out. In today's video, I will be reordering 21 Pilots albums as if we were in an alternate universe and they were named Chill Coat. I will be making the cohesion of the album make more sense to me personally. If you disagree, write down how you would reorder these albums in the comments below. And I also wanted to rename the albums, and no 21 Pilots album has a title track. And rather than naming these albums something like Vessel, which doesn't really have to do with any of the songs, we are going to be naming the title of the album what I think the title track from the album is. So that's enough setup. Let's just get into this one. First off, you have self-titled Chill Coat. I think that Implicit Demand for Proof is a great opener, and Going Into Fall Away is just a great back-to-back hit because they're both talking about God. They're talking about the same thing, falling away from God. And after that, I think to keep up with the falling theme, we can go into Aircatcher, which is also sort of about love. And at number 4, I have Oh Misbeliever, which is also about love. From there, we kind of slow down in the album, so I want to get into some of the slower songs. So I have Addict with a Pen, Friend Please, Taxi Cab. I just think Taxi Cab works higher on the album, or sort of in the middle, rather than being one of the last ones. And then we pick it back up with Trapdoor, making the album be a little bit more fast-paced at this point when you're getting into the second half. Then we go back into the slow ones with A Car Tortured Death at number 9 and Before You Start Your Day at number 10. Before You Start Your Day doesn't really feel like the penultimate track of this album, so I think it should be higher than 13. Then we get back into one of the faster-paced songs with the Pantaloon. The Pantaloon never felt like a track 3 or one of the early tracks to me. It actually felt like where you're starting to wind down the album and get towards the end. I also feel that way with March to the Sea. March to the Sea is a very long, drawn-out song about a big story, and I think it just works having it later on the album to kind of start closing it out a little bit. And then the penultimate track is Johnny Boy, because I feel like it has that big explosive nature that a 21 Pilots song before the final one has, where it's a contradiction of how happy it sounds because the lyrics are so down. And then last, obviously, Isle of Flightless Birds, great closer for this album. It kind of encapsulates everything the album is trying to tell you, and I don't think that this could be placed anywhere else. Regional at Best is interesting because it hasn't really ever been considered a 21 Pilots album. Even Tyler and Josh don't consider it an actual album. It's just a compilation of songs and demos of what they either played at shows or what would eventually turn into Vessel. The only thing I will say about Regional at Best is that I will change the name of it from Regional at Best to Slowtown. I think Slowtown is the most nostalgic sounding song out of all these, and Regional at Best just has themes of nostalgia in it, so that's what I would name it, but I don't really care about reordering because Tyler wouldn't. But if we go to Vessel, I'm going to rename this album from Vessel to Ode to Sleep. I think Ode to Sleep is a perfect title for this album because you're basically falling asleep, and then it's all about the night cycle and what Tyler's thinking while he's trying to fall asleep or while he's asleep or whatever, and it just fits the most out of any song title on here. Ode to Sleep obviously would be first because, opening track, it just works. Holding On to You would be next like usual. Migraine would also be after that because I think that top 3 cohesion is just really good. They all kind of have the same themes. And track 4, I'm going to differ a little. We're going to not go with House of Gold, but we're going to go with a different ukulele song. We're going to go with Screen. I think it fits the vibe of the album in the first half more. I think that it fits what Tyler is saying in the first 3 tracks more than House of Gold does. House of Gold does feel like an outlier in the track list. And after Screen, we're going to go to Car Radio, which is the normal positioning. After Car Radio, Semi-Automatic, then the Run and Go. I think that those two back-to-back just make sense, and it has better cohesion than Screen coming after Semi-Automatic and kind of feeling like it's out of nowhere. At least the Run and Go has sort of the same vibe. I always clumped, Semi-Automatic, the Run and Go, and Fake You Out together in that trio, so I think that just makes sense. After the Run and Go, since it's a song about his dad, I think it would be nice to go into House of Gold here. A song about his mom, kind of, making the album a little more spaced out, having a ukulele song here instead of at track 7, because at track 4 and at track 7, it feels like the ukulele songs are kind of close together. And I know it's just one more track down than where House of Gold and Screen usually are, but I think House of Gold just really works as a track 8. After House of Gold, we just go into the regular album cohesion. Fake You Out into Guns for Hands is perfect. Trees is perfect as that penultimate, almost finale sounding track. And then Truce is obviously the only closer that you could really have for this album. So yeah, not changed too much, but I think that it works better than the way that Vessel is in our universe. Next, we have Blurryface. I think this is the one that I'm going to change the most out of all of them. Name Blurryface has always felt kind of stupid to me. I think that Heavydirtysoul would be a much better title for this album. I think it just kind of encapsulates the whole vibe of him feeling weighed down, and like there's this other personality inside of him that he needs to beat to be able to feel happiness. And Heavydirtysoul isn't the first track I have on here, actually, even though it's the title track. First track I have is actually fairly local. It was the first single that they played, or that they released from this album. It was also the first song that was played at the Blurryface shows and the Emotional Roadshow tour. I know Heavydirtysoul was played in its full capacity, but Fairly Local was like the intro to Heavydirtysoul before Heavydirtysoul started, and I think it just makes more sense. It does feel more like an opening track than Heavydirtysoul to me, but that's why Heavydirtysoul is second. Fairly Local and Heavydirtysoul, they should be back to back on the album, whether Heavydirtysoul's first or Fairly Local is first. It just makes more sense to me. Then you have Stressed Out at 3. I think Stressed Out is perfect to have earlier on the album. I think second is a little too quick to be introduced to Hi, My Name's Blurryface, but it just makes sense. Then in fourth, I think that The Judge works here more. It still goes on with the same themes as the album, but you have a ukulele song and something that sounds brighter and poppier after Stressed Out, which is arguably their most poppy song of all time. And then fifth, we got Tearing My Heart. It's in the same positioning, but I think it works here after The Judge because they're both more sentimental songs. Then after Tearing My Heart, we have Lane Boy, which is regular. After Lane Boy, we have Doubt, which I think works more than The Judge. I think The Judge kind of breaks up the album in a weird way at track 7, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But Doubt feels more like that darker pop tone of Blurryface, which I feel like needs to be more shown on the top half of the album than the second half. So after Doubt, I then have Hometown, which slows the album down a little bit while also still having those dark themes and those lyrics that really relate to Blurryface. Then you got Message Man. Message Man is pretty much one of the best songs from this album, one of the only ones I really ever go back to, and I think that having it a little higher than it is just, it gives it a little bit more power. It gives it more listens. I just think it works better in that regard. 10, We Don't Believe It's on TV. It's a perfect placement. It breaks up the album. It's almost a filler song for the album, but it works. It's a fun vibe, and you want that fun vibe before you get into Polarize, which I guess also sort of has that fun vibe, even though I don't like the song that much. Not Today has never felt like the penultimate track to me. I think that Ride should be, because he's falling, he's taking his time on his ride. I think that just works as like, all right, last hurrah before we get to the last track. So as you can tell, I like having that more poppy, exciting song before the last track in most of these albums, and that's why I switched Not Today to 12, put Ride at 13, and Goner, obviously it has to be the closing track, so let's have 14. Trench has perfect cohesion. I will not be reordering this album at all. I don't think I could do it any better than it's done. I said it in my 6 years of Trench video and really broke down the cohesion of the album there, but every song really feels like it flows into each other. And then you have songs like Legend, which are later on, which takes the ukulele from the the hype, but also the jazz feel from Smithereens, and just builds off what was introduced earlier in the album. The only thing I would change is the title. I would make the title track of this one Bandito, because obviously the Bandito tour, Bandito Yellow, those are the colors of the album, and overall, the Banditos are the protagonists in this one, and they probably have the most weight in this album, especially in the song Bandito and Leave the City and other stuff like that. So if Trench was called something else, it'd probably be called Bandito. Then we got Scaled and Icy. I did not change much here at all. I'm going to change the title to Mulberry Street. Mulberry Street always felt like the title track to me, and besides Choker, it was the first one they really introduced and said was like Psy propaganda in the Psy live stream. So I think that Mulberry Street works a lot for the title of the album. I think that Good Day, Choker, Shy Away, Outside Saturday are all in their perfect spots. I think they all have great cohesion and they go into each other well. I like Good Day as an opener the best, but Choker also kind of feels like an opener, so having those back to back is really cool. Shy Away, you got the 80s pop synth hit, then you go into the Outside, which is more 21 Pilots vibing, but something still feels off. It's poppy. You got Saturday, which is the most pop song on the entire album, but then I differ a little bit. I think Never Take It after Saturday doesn't work as well as Mulberry Street would. I think Mulberry Street and Good Day kind of have sort of the same vibes to them, and I think that if you put it too close to the top, it wouldn't work as well. I think it needs to kind of be in the middle, but at the same time, it has such a fun, poppy piano vibe to it, where I think that after Saturday, rather than having a rock pop hit, you need something that is more personal and more down to earth. So I got Mulberry Street, then I got Formidable, then I got Bounce Man, which is normal. The only thing I really did here was move Never Take It down to number 9. I think that the album, Scale and Icy, the last two tracks feel like 21 Pilots, while tracks 1 through 9 feel like Dima's Propaganda album. And I think that Bounce Man is a good closer for that, but not only does it not really fade well into No Chances, but Never Take It also just kind of feels more like a closer. It feels like that last hurrah, like I've been saying in all of these, like something that comes before the darker finale that is not darker than the rest of the album, but feels more like a celebration. So I think that Never Take It probably is down here for me, not only because of that, but also because it was one of the closers in the live shows for the Takeover tour, and it was also the last track that was played at the Scaled and Icy live stream. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Then we got Clancy. I'm going to be renaming Clancy to Vignette. I thought about renaming it to Navigating, but I think that Vignette fits the vibe of the album more because he's kind of being swallowed by his fears. And it is, the last album in the storyline, allegedly. So I think Vignette really kind of sums up him being taken over by Blurryface and Nico, and him wanting to break out of that Vignette and that hold. And that's why I have Overcompensate the first track, but Vignette as the second track. Vignette does fade well out of Routines, with Routines is kind of synthy, long drawn out ending, and Vignette's long drawn out intro. But I think that Vignette fits the vibe of Clancy and what the album was going for more than Next Semester does. And Next Semester is a great track too, but it really switches up the vibe after Overcompensate, and Vignette sort of keeps that vibe more. So I'm going from Overcompensate to Vignette, then to Next Semester, because I think Overcompensate and Vignette give you a good idea of the lore heavy side of the album, but Next Semester needs to be higher on the track list because it gives you a better idea of the more personal songs and how open Tyler is going to be on this album. Then track 4, I have Navigating. It keeps the same sort of sound and vibe from Next Semester while being a little bit more surface level and more lore heavy. Then I have At the Risk of Feeling Dumb at number 5. I think it works higher on the track list than it does lower. I don't think it really works as the penultimate track on Clancy. I think that At the Risk sort of has that rock feel to it that Navigating and Next Semester has, but it's a little different and feels, more poppy in its tone. So it's a good way to kind of transition out of that rock vibe and go into something a little different. I think that the ending really slows down and gets you to a point where we can kind of make this album a little slower, get to a different point. So that's why I have The Craving after it. I think The Craving doesn't really work as the middle track exactly on the album. I think it's more of a track 6 than a track 7. And obviously the Lavish after The Craving works a lot. It's like the two most different songs on the entire album. So after The Craving, I have Lavish. After Lavish, we go back into that sort of poppy vibe that I was talking about with Routines in the Night. I think that this is a great one to sort of have in the second half to keep the listener excited about what's to come, especially after The Craving and Lavish, which might not be your favorite to listen to on a first listen. After Routines, we go into Snapback. I think Snapback works better coming before Backslide, because it's more about having to embrace the badness of what you need to do to snap back, while Backslide is about getting out of those habits. So I think having those two back to back makes a lot more sense to me than having them very far apart on the album. So we go from Snapback to Backslide, both kind of slower vibes. Oldie Station, also a slower vibe. I think that it works as track 11. It's probably, besides Overcompensate, the best placed on the entire album. Then we go into Midwest Indigo. Midwest Indigo, I always felt like this was more of a closer track than an opener track. Man, my voice cracked. What the hell? Midwest Indigo not only was played almost last on the Clancy World Tour, but it also just has that vibe of, partying and having that last hurrah before the last song makes you cry. So I think that the synth of Midwest also works a lot with the synth of Paladin. They both start and Paladin doesn't end with the synth, but Midwest starts with the synth and ends with the synth, and Paladin starts with the synth, and it just works. I feel like the cohesion there would work a lot better than going from At the Risk of Feeling Dumb into Paladin straight. So that's my personal opinion, and that's how I would reorder the albums. Let me know what you guys would do. Let me know if you guys think that the title tracks I chose don't really fit the vibes of the album. I didn't do a title track for self-titled because it's self-titled, so we got Chill Coat, we got Slowtown, we got Ode to Sleep, we got Heavydirtysoul, we got Bandito, we got Mulberry Street, and we got Vignette. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video and for getting my other video that's kind of like this one up to 3,000 views. That's why I made this video, because that one did so well. It means the world. I appreciate you guys so much, and the fact that I gained almost 200 subscribers in 2 days makes me so happy that I'm making these videos. Not for the success, but just because it's nice to see that other people want to talk about what I want to talk about. So, yeah, thank you guys again, and I will catch you next Thursday. And I want love in sunny days. I'm a bit too old to run away. You make me sad and second guess myself. You can be so cold.